My best friend left his wife for me, then brought her to our engagement dinner, smiling like nothing happened. She said, I just wanted to meet the woman who took my place. I clinked my glass, looked her dead in the eye, and said, funny, I was about to say the same to you. Everyone went silent as he choked on his wine. My name is Marla Whitmore, and if there's one thing I've learned in my 43 years of being stubborn, hard-headed, and sometimes too loyal for my own good, it's that trust doesn't crumble all at once. It erodes, quietly, almost politely, until one day you find yourself standing in the ruins, wondering when exactly the walls gave way. I grew up in South Boston, in a tiny two-bedroom with creaky floors and a mother who worked herself to the bone at Mass General Hospital just to keep food on the table. It made me tough, or at least, it made me think I was. I built a life I was proud of, a brownstone in the South End, a decent job editing at the Boston Globe, a few close friends, and a handful of scars that nobody could see. I wasn't chasing fairy tales. I didn't believe in forever the way some people did. I believed in showing up, doing the work, and keeping your damn word. That's what made what happened with Felix hurt the way it did. It wasn't about love, not really. It was about the betrayal of someone you thought was safe. Felix Moran had been my best friend for over 2 decades. We met as dumb kids at Boston University. He was the guy who helped me move into my first crummy dorm, who handed me Kleenex after my first real heartbreak, who got drunk with me at dive bars when the future felt too heavy to think about. Over the years, we grew up, but never apart. Even after he married Jenna Calhoun, the kind of woman who wore designer sunglasses indoors and talked about Napa Valley like it was a second religion, Felix and I stayed close. Or maybe I just told myself we did. The truth was, after he married her, something shifted. He laughed less, smiled less, drank more. He stopped calling me Mars, the nickname he'd given me when we were 19 and reckless. I should have seen it coming. It started small. A late-night text after I'd posted a photo of my new dog on Instagram. Felix, cute dog. Mind if I come meet him? I stared at my phone for a full minute before answering. It was innocent. Of course it was. We were friends. That's all we'd ever been. The first time he came over, he looked different. His suit was rumpled. His tie was gone. His eyes were bloodshot. He slumped onto my couch like he'd been running uphill for years and finally couldn't take another step. How's Jenna? I asked carefully, setting down 2 glasses of bourbon between us. He shrugged. How's the weather on Mars? He deflected with a weak smile. We didn't talk about it that night. We just drank and laughed a little. And for a few hours, it felt like old times. But old times have a way of dragging the present down with them. Over the next few months, Felix became a fixture in my life again. Dinners, late-night calls, quiet confessions said into the dark. She doesn't see me anymore, he murmured once, staring at the ceiling fan in my living room like it held all the answers. It's like, I'm a piece of furniture she forgot she owned. I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing. Silence can be an invitation too. The night he showed up at my door with a duffel bag slung over his shoulder and heartbreak written all over his face, something inside me snapped. Tell me to go back, he said. His voice was hoarse. Tell me I'm being a selfish prick. Instead, I opened the door wider. That was all it took. One step over the threshold. One tiny crack in the dam. Living with Felix was like trying to patch a leaking ship with duct tape. Some days, it felt perfect. Easy. Natural. Other days, I'd catch him staring off into the distance, his mouth drawn tight, and feel a pang of something ugly in my chest. Was he missing her? Regretting me? Was I just the escape hatch he dove through when his real life started to drown him? I pushed those thoughts down. Hard. We got engaged in the messiest, least romantic way imaginable, after a fight about who forgot to buy more coffee filters. I was sitting on the couch in my pajamas, hair a wreck, face still puffy from crying. He stood there, chest heaving, and blurted it out. Marry me. Just like that. Like a dare. And like a fool, I said yes. We planned a small engagement dinner. Nothing flashy. Just close friends and family at Legal Harborside. The smell of the ocean mixing with the butter and lemon from the lobsters being hauled out of the kitchen. I wore a navy blue dress that clung in all the right places. Felix wore a suit I'd picked out for him. I told myself this was real. That he had chosen me. That we were building something from the ashes of his past. Not just dancing in the wreckage. But there was something off about him that night. His eyes kept darting to the door. His knee bounced under the table. His laugh sounded a little too loud. I chalked it up to nerves. God, I was so good at lying to myself back then. When Jenna walked in, the air left the room like someone had cracked a window in a blizzard. She looked stunning. Untouchable. Like heartbreak itself wrapped in silk and spite. She walked straight to our table without a hint of hesitation. I just wanted to meet the woman who took my place, she said, smiling with the precision of a surgeon about to make an incision. The words floated there, thick and poisonous. Around me, forks froze halfway to their mouths. Glasses trembled in hands. I picked up my wine glass, clinked it lightly against Felix's, and turned to her with a smile I didn't know I had in me. Funny, I said, my voice low, steady, lethal. I was about to say the same to you. The words hit the table like a gunshot. Felix coughed, sputtered, turned beet red. Jenna just smiled wider, like a queen who had already won the war. Without another word, she turned and left. And just like that, the night was broken. When we got home, Felix tried to explain, tried to spin it into something harmless. She just wanted closure, he insisted. I had no idea she would actually show up, but something in his eyes told me otherwise. Something deep and ugly and unfinished. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of the ring on my finger like it was an anchor dragging me down. By morning, I knew. This wasn't my forever. It was my warning. I didn't leave right away. That's something I still think about, lying awake some nights. The fact that even after everything, I stayed. Not because I believed his excuses. Not because I thought love would fix it. Because leaving felt harder than staying. Because starting over again felt like trying to rebuild a house in the middle of a storm, with nothing but splintered wood and bloody hands. So I stayed. And in the weeks that followed, Felix did everything he could to pretend nothing had happened. He brought me coffee in bed, made dumb jokes about wedding colors and flower arrangements, held my hand tighter in public like he could anchor me there, keep me from drifting too far out of reach. I played along, smiled when I had to, nodded at the right moments. But inside, something was rotting. One rainy afternoon, about a month after the engagement dinner, I found an envelope tucked into the mailbox. No stamp, no return address, just my name, written in neat, careful letters. Inside was a photo, Felix and Jenna, at some restaurant I didn't recognize, leaning close across the table, his hand on hers, and a note, written on the back in a looping, unfamiliar script. Old habits die hard. My hand shook so badly I nearly dropped it into the gutter. I didn't confront him right away. I didn't storm into the house, waving the photo like a battle flag. Instead, I sat down on the front steps, the rain soaking through my jeans, and stared at it, turning it over and over in my hands like it might somehow reveal more if I just looked hard enough. I realized something then, something that cut deeper than anything Jenna could have ever said. It wasn't about her. It wasn't even about Felix. It was about me. About the part of me that had ignored every warning sign, every sinking feeling, every whispered doubt. Because I wanted so badly for someone to finally pick me first. And now, all I had was proof that even when they did, it didn't mean what I thought it did. That night, Felix cooked dinner like nothing was wrong. Linguine with clams. My favorite. I sat across from him at the kitchen island, the photo burning a hole in my pocket, and watched him talk about the red socks like the ground beneath us wasn't already cracking open. He finally noticed. "You're quiet," he said, twirling pasta onto his fork. "Everything okay?" For a moment, I thought about pulling the photo out, slamming it down between us, demanding answers. Instead, I just smiled. "Yeah," I said. "Just tired." Because fighting wouldn't fix it. Because the truth was bigger than a single betrayal. Because some things, once broken, can't be glued back together. Not neatly, not quietly, not without leaving scars so deep you forget what you looked like before. The real confrontation didn't come until 3 days later. I came home early from work, my mind buzzing with 100 excuses not to go inside. I stood on the front porch, key in hand, heart thudding. Through the window, I could see Felix, slumped on the couch, phone pressed to his ear. His voice floated through the glass, muffled but clear enough. "I miss you too." I didn't wait for the rest. Didn't need to. I turned around, walked back to my car, and sat there in the driveway with the engine off and the world spinning around me. The photo was still in my glove compartment. I pulled it out, smoothing the crumpled edges, and stared at it like maybe this time I could make sense of it. Maybe if I stared long enough, I could rewrite the story. Maybe I wasn't the fool I so clearly was. But lies, once spoken out loud, have a way of staining the air. And there was no scrubbing this clean. I didn't leave that night either. Instead, I lay awake in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, listening to the soft creak of the house settling around me. Listening to Felix pacing in the hallway, his footsteps unsure and uneven. Listening to the soft buzz of his phone vibrating on the nightstand. He never knocked, never came in. Maybe he knew there was nothing left to say. Or maybe he was just as much a coward as I was. The next morning, he tried again. Made coffee, toast, eggs. Laid it all out on the counter like a peace offering. I walked past it without a word. Picked up my bag, my keys, paused at the door. His voice, quiet, almost a whisper. "Marla, please." I turned to look at him. Really look at him. The man I had built my future around. The man who had built his future on a lie. And I felt nothing but bone-deep exhaustion. "I'm not hungry," I said. The door clicked shut behind me. I spent the next few days at a motel near Revere Beach. Cheap, loud, smelled vaguely of mildew and salt. But it was mine. Mine and mine alone. No lies leaking in under the door. No empty promises waiting on the other side of a phone call. Just me. The truth. And a future I hadn't figured out yet. I kept my phone off. Didn't check my email. Didn't check social media. Felix called. Texted. Left voicemails. At first angry. then apologetic, then just empty. I didn't listen to any of them, because I already knew how the story ended. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't willing to sit around and watch it happen. I didn't stay hidden forever. After 3 nights at the motel, I drove back into the city, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. I wasn't going back to him. I just needed a plan. Somewhere to land. Somewhere that wasn't a stained mattress and buzzing neon lights. At a red light on Commonwealth Avenue, I realized I only had one real option. Leah. We hadn't spoken much in the weeks leading up to the engagement dinner. I'd brushed her off, too busy playing dress-up in the fantasy Felix built for me. But she'd been my best friend since we were kids, back when scraped knees and broken hearts could be healed with a Band-Aid and a popsicle. If anyone would understand, it was her. If she didn't slam the door in my face first. I parked outside her brownstone in Brookline, heart hammering so loud I could barely think. The door swung open before I even knocked. Leah stood there in sweatpants and an oversized Harvard sweatshirt, hair pulled into a messy bun. She took one look at me, at the duffel bag slung over my shoulder, the hollow look in my eyes, and without a word, stepped aside. I walked in, dropped the bag, collapsed onto her battered old couch. She handed me a glass of water. No questions, just sat beside me, waiting. Finally, I found my voice. "It's over," I said. A pause. Her hand found mine, squeezed it. "Good," she said. And just like that, the dam broke. For hours, I poured it all out. The lies. The manipulation. The way he had smiled at Jenna like he'd never left her at all. The way he had tried to mold me into someone smaller, quieter, easier to keep. I talked until my throat was raw, until my ribs ached from holding back sobs. Leah listened. Never interrupted. Only when I finally ran out of words did she speak. "You know," she said, voice low, "I never liked him." I let out a choked laugh. "Yeah," I said. "I kind of figured." She tucked her legs under her, staring at me with that fierce, unwavering look she got when she was about to say something I wouldn't want to hear. "But Marla," she said, "you didn't have to settle for him. You chose to." I flinched. Because it was true. All those nights I told myself it wasn't that bad. All those mornings I swallowed the nagging doubts like bitter pills. I had made my choice. And now I had to live with it. The next few days blurred together. I stayed in Leah's spare room, surrounded by stacks of law textbooks and the soft hum of life moving on without me. I slept too much. Ate too little. Sometimes I would catch Leah watching me, her brow furrowed like she didn't know how to put me back together. But she didn't push. She just let me be broken. Let me figure out how to stand up on my own again. Felix kept trying. I changed my number. Blocked him on everything I could think of. But one evening, coming back from a walk around Jamaica Pond, I found a note wedged into the doorframe. Not mailed. Not texted. Hand-delivered. "Marla, please. One conversation. That's all I'm asking." Leah found it before I could even touch it. She ripped it in half without reading it and tossed it into the trash. "You're not obligated to him anymore," she said. And for the first time, I believed her. Still, the guilt gnawed at me. Not for leaving him. For everything else. For the friendships I let wither while I played perfect fiancé. For the parts of myself I had shaved away to fit into the life he wanted. For the gut instinct I had buried so deep I almost forgot it existed. One night, lying awake staring at the cracked ceiling, I whispered into the dark, "I'm sorry." I wasn't sure who I was apologizing to. Myself. Leah. Even Jenna, in a way. Because none of us had won. Felix had hollowed out all three of us. And we let him. A week after I moved in with Leah, there was a knock at the door. Late. Too late for it to be anyone, but bad news. Leah opened it cautiously, chain still hooked. It wasn't Felix. It was Jenna. She stood there in ripped jeans and a leather jacket. Her blonde hair tangled from the wind, eyes bloodshot. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Jenna cleared her throat. "I just want to talk to her," she said. Leah hesitated. Then, slowly, unhooked the chain and stepped aside. I stood there, barefoot on the worn hardwood, heart hammering. Jenna walked in like a ghost. Stopped a few feet from me. Shoved her hands deep into her pockets. "I didn't come to fight," she said. I'm tired of fighting." Her voice cracked, and something inside me cracked with it. We weren't enemies. We were collateral damage. We sat at the kitchen table, the three of us. Leah brewed tea, her movements sharp and efficient. Jenna stared into her mug like it held all the answers. "I'm sorry," Jenna said finally, voice barely above a whisper. "For that night. For putting you on the spot like that." I shook my head. "You had every right." "No," she said. "I didn't. Not like that. I was angry. Humiliated. I wanted you to hurt like I hurt." Her fingers trembled as she gripped the mug tighter. "And Felix," she added, her voice hardening. "He doesn't change. He won't." I nodded. Because I already knew. Because I had seen it for myself, in the cracked mirror of our brief life together. Leah stood up, tossing her tea bag into the sink. "You two need anything?" she asked, her voice tight. I shook my head. Jenna did too. Leah disappeared into her room, closing the door behind her with a soft click. Jenna and I sat in silence. Finally, she laughed, a hollow, broken sound. How did we end up here? She asked. I didn't have an answer, but I knew one thing. Whatever came next, it wouldn't include Felix. Not for me. Not for her. Not anymore. After Jenna left that night, something inside me shifted. Not like flipping a switch. More like the slow grind of tectonic plates, reshaping the ground under my feet. I realized I couldn't keep running from the wreckage Felix left behind. If I wanted to move forward, I had to step right into the ashes, barefoot and bleeding if I had to. I had to finish this. On my terms. The next morning, I called him. Blocked number. He answered anyway, voice wary and hoarse like he hadn't slept. Marla, I'll meet you, I said. Tomorrow. Public place. A long pause. Then, okay. I hung up without another word. We met at a cafe near Kenmore Square. Bright. Crowded. Safe. He was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table, fiddling with his phone. When he saw me, he lit up like nothing had happened. Like we were just another couple meeting for brunch, laughing about the future we still had. Marla, he said, standing like he might hug me. I stayed rooted to the spot. His arms fell awkwardly back to his sides. Sit, he said, clearing his throat. Please. I sat. A waitress came by. I ordered black coffee. Nothing else. Felix tried to smile, to bridge the gulf between us. I've missed you, he said. I made a mistake. We can work through this. People make mistakes, right? I stared at him. Really stared. At the man who could lie without blinking. The man who could leave devastation in his wake and still think he deserved forgiveness. I pulled out a small folder from my bag, placed it on the table between us. He frowned. What's this? Everything, I said quietly. Inside were copies of the photos. Printouts of the messages he thought he deleted. Screenshots Jenna had sent me. Proof of everything he'd been doing behind my back. And behind hers. His face went pale. I didn't rush. Didn't yell. Didn't cry. Just watched him squirm. You're wondering why I'm showing you this, I said. He opened his mouth to protest, but I lifted a hand. Don't. You had your chance. I leaned closer, voice steady. You're going to walk away, Felix. No fights. No stories. No calls to friends trying to smear me. You're going to let everyone think whatever they want. His face twisted. Or what? He spat. I smiled, small and cold. Or I'll make sure every single one of these goes exactly where they need to go. Your office. Your clients. Your family. He blanched. Because reputation was everything to Felix. Because behind the charm and the fake humility, he was just a scared little boy desperate for validation. You wouldn't, he said. I sipped my coffee. Calm. Unhurried. I would. And I will. You think Jenna's mad? You think I'm mad? Imagine what the partners at your firm will think. Imagine what your mother will think when she sees the timestamps. He sank back into his chair, color draining from his face. You're cruel, he muttered. No, I said softly. I'm done. He didn't fight. Couldn't. He mumbled something about needing time. Gathered his things. Left without looking back. I stayed a while longer, nursing the bitter coffee, feeling the weight lift off my chest, bone by brittle bone. The fallout was faster than I expected. Felix didn't say a word to anyone. Didn't try to twist the story. Didn't try to paint me as the villain. Instead, he quietly withdrew from the social circles we once shared. Friends noticed. Questions were asked. Rumors spread like wildfire, fueled by the few careful nudges Jenna and I provided. Nothing outrageous. Just truths, finally spoken out loud. It wasn't cruelty. It was clarity. And it was enough. Jenna and I stayed in loose touch after that. Not friends exactly, but allies. Survivors. We grabbed coffee sometimes, trading updates about our separate lives. Neither of us mentioned Felix again. He became a ghost. A footnote. Exactly where he belonged. Months later, I stood on the back porch of Leah's brownstone, a cold beer sweating in my hand, watching the sun dip below the Boston skyline. Leah came out, plopping down beside me with a groan. You look lighter, she said. I smiled. Felt it too. I had moved into a tiny apartment in South End. Started painting again, something I hadn't done in years. Got a dog. A scrappy mutt named Theo who slept curled against my legs every night. My life wasn't perfect, but it was mine. No lies. No pretending. No hollow promises wrapped in shiny paper. Just me. And for the first time in years, that was enough. I clinked my bottle lightly against Leah's. To starting over, I said. She grinned. To better mistakes next time. We laughed, the sound easy and real. The city lights flickered to life below us, a million tiny suns burning against the dark. And somewhere out there, Felix was still spinning his web of half-truths and charm. But I didn't care anymore. I had burned down the fantasy, built something new from the ashes. Something true. Something that finally felt like home.